we are literally touching on everything. Curved lines, borders, the colours of the paints, the artwork inside of here, the upholstery, all bespoke to fit. It was almost like an explosion of creativity.
We did start off with some price testing at £565 a night.
Beyond this mirror here, it's a full-on jacuzzi bathroom. His and hers, wash counter, a huge mirror in there.
And then also this was a custom-made door, extra high, and we put the handle very slightly lower.
That's right.
To make the doors look taller and to make the room feel taller and bigger.
We want a sensory overload in this place. So I only stopped when I thought, okay, I've run out of space. If you can travel and work, you've made it.
We had some quite funny stories on our buying trip to Bali.
Matthew got carried away and didn't come home till like 7 in the evening. There I was with this heavily pregnant woman on the back of my moped in Bali. Pulled the napkin out, got a pen, and I drew this thing, and before you knew it, we're measuring. And the very next day we went, found the carpenter, and we created it. We've actually made this thing. And I always say, from concept to drawing to reality, I love that process. I knew what we was going to do then was we was going to get signature pieces, but we weren't going to make the whole thing completely like a Bali hut. Bali's all about space, and Bali's all about external coming in.
Every batch was very slightly different, which meant that if we wanted the next line to line up, you had to find the same batch of tiles from the same supplier within the whole shipment. Could you just slice that? And then we can do this. We got pen and paper out. And we're like, okay, well, let's turn that into a vanity unit.
Love that.
What's the opposite of a red flag?
Green flag.
Okay, now there's a good green flag. Who's looking for solutions versus who's trying to sell you what they've already got?
To get the best out of an artist, trust them. Believe it or not, I'm a bit of a legend with a sewing machine. I get there to meet these guys and they show me this thing. I can see it's substandard. Then I said, just take me to the factory. He takes me to the factory and I said, look, do you mind budging over and just sew it for her? And they're like, all the women are looking and I go, what? But all of a sudden they look at you in a slightly different way. You're not just a money guy, you're actually a craftsman yourself. So I'm going to say it again, if you can travel and make money at the same time, that's the best way to exist, I think.
So this is podcast number 2.
Podcast 2.
Welcome back. I'm Matt.
I'm Francis.
And today we are inside our second hut, which is called Little Touch of Grey.
Yeah.
And the theme of the hut was basically a townhouse.
That's right.
We tried to integrate lots of different things into the property.
On the first podcast, we kind of like touched a little bit on lattice work, and we touched on rooms opening up to the next room and there being theatre within your property. And this is what I was trying to explain what we had done. It's not lattice work, but it works in the same way, which is it's a mirror. It's a two-way mirror. It has a door behind in the bathroom, but it opens up. So when you're in the bedroom, which is behind the camera, if this is open, you can actually see all the way through into the bathroom and actually beyond into our jacuzzi area in the garden behind the blinds. As you can see, it's all very ornate. It's all very rich and deep in colour, which is what we wanted with this place. It's nice and moody, which is why I'm wearing a black top today, because I knew I was going to be in here. And I want
you like Steve Jobs?
Yes. Yes, Steve Jobs. That's me. Yeah. Oh, it's true. And so we've decided to do it in this one today, just so you can have an idea. I think we're going to be touching on a couple of little bits. We're not going to go too crazy with our subject matters, but we're going to talk about a couple of bits that we think you'd like to know what we've been up to and how we've got to where we've got to. So
you're the master designer behind all of the properties that we're building.
Yeah.
What was the inspiration behind this property?
Well, behind this one, when we did the first one, which is beautiful. It's a country style. I do remember Matt saying, we're gonna use the same structural model. Which is, what would you describe this as about this shape? This is like your authentic kind of shepherd's hut, curved roof. And I just remember thinking to myself, damn, I don't want to do the same thing again. So I said to Matt, look, we can make this look really interesting and we can, let's go a bit bonkers on this. Matt really didn't know what he was signing up for when I said that, because this one probably took a third longer duration to make it because of the detail. But as we was on the build of this thing, I always said to Matt, look, this is quite possibly going to be the trickiest build that we're going to do, as in interior wise, design wise, because we've got so much detail in this one that we are literally touching on everything. Curved lines, borders, the colours of the paints, the artwork inside here, the upholstery, all bespoke to fit. The kitchen bespoke, the steps are carpeted. There's just so much intricate. It was almost like like an explosion of creativity, which is actually, if you can get it wrong quite easily. I knew I wasn't going to get it wrong, but it's very methodical, and it took a long time to create it correctly and make it look like it's supposed to look. But we achieved it, and all I had to say to Matt as it rolled on another week was, don't worry, none of them will ever be as difficult as this one. And I think that was a great bit of exercise that we did there, because we pushed it to the limit, because we wanted to make money as well. So the sooner we got it built, the better. But at the same time, it's like, I now know that Matt and I, whatever any other design we do, is never going to be as complicated as this one. So they're all going to seem a little bit easier. The following hut, the one we're doing now, is the little Bali hut, the little Bali hut, and I knew straight away this is going to be an easier build. Even though the building's going to be bigger, when it comes to interior, it's all about clean lines and natural products, and yeah, I knew it was going to be easier, and it is easier. Not as much detail, but it's more about the aesthetics and the mood of making it feel like it's in Bali.
I remember one of the things you said when we were building this is that you didn't want it to look small inside.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering what your thinking was behind how to build a space that is essentially 27 foot by 8 foot wide.
Yeah.
And not make it feel so narrow and feel so everything's so tight.
Yeah.
How do you what's your thinking when it comes to functionality and also having the aesthetic appeal?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, the first thing you said there, which is bang on, is functionality. It has to be functional. If it isn't functional, if you're having to creep through little cubby, little gangways and stuff like that, it doesn't feel right. It's why gangway kitchens always feel like they're tight. You shouldn't have a gangway kitchen. If you can knock a wall down and open it up into the living room, do it. With this, I think both you and I, when we was at the point of doing CAD drawings, we always we're quite good at working things out spatially. But we always had a problem because we knew this, and this was a bit risque from us. It always came to the point of seating, where I said I wanted to incorporate seating, and it didn't matter how many times we spun that CAD around, we couldn't work out where we was going to put it. This is it, by the way. This is what we ended up coming up with. But at the same time, it had to be functional, and the original idea, many of our CADs had this here extending beyond Matt's view here, and I was never comfortable with it. But I knew that let's just get it down on paper. We'll work that out later. We'll work it out later. And once we started building, I also knew so we kind of knew this before we even built it and before we even ordered a chassis. I always knew we need to extend the length of this property, because otherwise we are going to struggle. I love working with small spaces. Our name is Little Lux London. I think we're going to always keep with that. I think having these little modulars of beautiful, like little pellets of beautiful things I think it's a real unique little home. It's a massive thing. And so we extended the build, even though it isn't cramped at all. It's actually very functional. You could actually live in here for a couple of weeks quite comfortably. But I knew we were going to make that up with the bathroom. And we actually have a full-size bathroom. We've actually got a huge bathroom in there.
And we'll put up photos of the full pictures of the hut while we're talking about it, so you can see what we're talking about.
Yeah. We put like a little slide or something so you can see what we've made. And beyond this mirror here, it's a full-on bathroom with a jacuzzi bathroom. His and hers counter, wash counter, a huge mirror in there, and full of detail as well. And once you open this door here and this window's open here, then all of a sudden this room doesn't feel so small. The light comes in through there. There's depth, and so we were just very clever. We were just very clever and very cautious about how we built things. But I do have an obsession about building things that are functional.
Mm.
They have to be the right seat depths. They have to, I want to sit down like that because
it can't be miniature.
It can't be. You can't. Yeah, it's a miniature house, but you can't have miniature furniture. So you have to be very clever. You just don't put arms on things, but you can put a suggestion, which is a wing. That's a wing. That's a suggestion of something. That's more depth. And
it makes it show that it terminates the sofa, basically.
Terminates the sofa, exactly. And another thing we did in this room, which was crazy, which we went bonkers with the lighting. We put so much lighting in here, and it really works. So I'm not going to play around with lighting because I mess around with the camera. But I think we've got like 3 or 4 options in this room sequences. And I think we've got 3 or 4 in the bathroom as well, and then we have on the exterior too.
I remember the electrician coming and
this is funny.
He said there's more electrics in here than in a normal flat.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
said, well, we're going to be over the top with it, so you got to get used to it.
Yeah, that's right.
But we have a very good electrician, and he doesn't say no to our ideas, which is good. He thinks of solutions.
He's a lovely guy, and actually, you know what? We're going to ask him in the future if he doesn't mind us plugging him, because he is fantastic, and we'll plug him in if he's up for it. But he is great, and he just adapts to what we do. Like I said, it's like we had this little hut, and there's cables everywhere running underneath the floor heating, through the ceiling. It's just wires absolutely everywhere. The speakers. There was,
For example, in this room, we've got the lighting behind the sofa. We've got the lighting up here. We've got the lighting inside the little cubby in the bath, inside the bedroom.
Yeah, the headboard. Yeah.
There's also a mystery door down here, which is a magnetic lock. So when you enter the code inside the kitchen door, this door swings open, and you can provide your partner with a gift.
Or you can use it as a safety deposit box. It's there, it's functional, and actually you are going to go for a walk and you just want to leave your wallet, you have a safety deposit box there, which is obviously all coded up.
And then there's underfloor heating. We've got the boiler, which is also on Wi-Fi switches, so we can turn things on and off remotely. Everything is geared up so that it can be managed by a property manager.
That's right.
And so that someone doesn't have to drive here to solve a problem. So we wanted to make sure that everything was as fluid as possible and streamlined as possible when people were actually staying in the property.
Matt was on this way sooner than I was. Actually, from the very first hut, he was very, very keen in making all of these properties really functional and remote functional, which like he said, he's wired everything from the heating to switching on the jacuzzi to our front door lock. Everything is remotely done. But Matt really emphasized that. He said, we want to be able to make this remote. So if, for example, when Matt and I travel on our journeys, and we'll talk about that actually, we'll talk about our Bali trip in this podcast. So if we can do this stuff remotely, we can go and travel, we can do what we need to do, and as long as we've got the right management in who also has access to all of our systems, there's it's pretty much dumb proof, really, isn't it? Anyone can, it runs itself, which is a beautiful, which is a really nice thing. You don't want to build one of these and have to be worried that a key doesn't work or this doesn't work or that doesn't work. So I thought that Matt had some really good forward vision when it came to that. I didn't see that. I was a little bit more of the analog kind of mindset, and Matt brought that to this, and I'm all over it. I love all that.
A couple of other things that you inspired, that were inspired by you in this property, I think, were for the fact to make the ceilings feel taller.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
was to put coving, in the corners of the wall as it joins in to stop the harsh line,
the dead line
where the ceiling looks like it finishes.
Yeah, again.
So we blend the ceiling, the top line of the ceiling, into the ceiling.
That's right.
And then also this was a custom made door, which was extra high, and we put the handle very slightly lower.
That's right.
Than normal to make the doors look taller and to make the actual room feel taller and bigger.
It does feel taller, exactly that, by just putting like Matt said, so basically ceiling lines. If these are techniques that you learn with interiors. If you paint a room all the same color, maybe just change the finish of the ceiling to the actual walls, for example, an eggshell on the ceiling, but the same color tone as the walls, you haven't got a visual finish line on your roof. So that was one of the things that I loved about this build, is that I used every technique that I've seen used to create more space, and it does. I mean, Matt, what would you say our ceiling height is? About 9 foot?
Yeah, I'd say just about 9 foot. Probably feels like 12.
It feels like 12, yeah.
Yeah.
And then what you do as well is we put an inner mold that borders the whole ceiling. So that actually looks like it's the top of the coving.
That's where the finished
That's where it looks
yeah.
like it's the top of the coving. And that's why it feels like it's a massive ceiling. But it's all an illusion. I mean, all of it's an illusion. And that's really good fun. That's like really playful. You come in this place and we base this like on on animals, Serengeti. Then we want to have aquatic feel about it. The blues are like the deep blue ocean. This one is theatre. This hut is all about theatre. And the feedback we get from our clients, the people that stay here, they say it as well. They absolutely love it. And this one we are currently renting at. What's the fee on this one?
This one varies throughout the year between £403 per night and £462. But we did start off with some price testing at £565 a night.
Yeah.
And we did actually manage to fill spaces in this property with £565 a night. But we realised that the volume of bookings wasn't coming through. So we slightly reduced over time. Use a price skimming strategy to reduce the amount of consumer surplus as much as possible, which ended up landing at about 462 in the summer and 403 in the winter. The revenue on this property is more than the first property that we built.
Exactly.
And on the Little Bamboo Bali one that we are building now, we want to make it a 4-person property where you can have 2 couples come and stay. And the reason we originally started targeting couples is because there is more disposable income. When you're targeting families, you have they're spending a lot of money on their kids. It's more about, it's not necessarily about romance or atmosphere. It's more about, let's kind of go away and have some relaxing time. But when you have couples, they go for a date night, they go for birthday, and they want to spoil each other. That's the reason we targeted this market, and I think that it's worked really well for us.
I think we did. I mean,
in order for the business to be sustainable, it needs to pay itself. And
absolutely,
as a target for this kind of level of
absolutely. And that wasn't just something we fell upon. We pretty much knew from the beginning we're going to target couples. Because like Matt says, if you're going to go on a family holiday, you're not going to spend that money and come here and be in a smaller hut with a family. It's just not. This doesn't lend itself for a family holiday, and we knew that. So we didn't even bother doing that. So even like the Bali hut that we're doing now, even though we want it to house, to be able to accommodate for 4 people, 2 couples. It's 2 couples we want in there. I mean, if you want to bring, I'm sure some people will bring their children, but we're just aiming towards more adults. Adults coming and having adult time with themselves. People focus with whoever they come with and enjoy a coffee. Enjoy coffee or drinks or the jacuzzis and all that. And actually, I think we pretty much quickly realised we want to switch off. We want adults to have a space where they can switch off from their daily routine of children and all that kind of stuff. So, of course, we've got people that have families, but they don't come in with their families.
I often get people messaging me saying, I'm not exactly sure what date I want yet. I just want to know if I can check in at this time, blah, blah, blah. I need to make sure I've got childcare.
There you go.
Because most people don't bring their kids.
We
have had it every now and again, and I've provided a cot for them. But most of the time people come here for an escape. They come here to relax, they come here for romance. I mean, it's in the name of this property, which is Little Touch of Grey, which hints at a more romantic location. And what I was thinking, that when you were talking about couples, just as you were speaking, I was thinking this is a really good example of something that is designed just for couples, because this is not only a mirror. If you close the door on the bathroom side, you can see your reflection, but when you open it up, there is an indoor jacuzzi on the other side, and you can you can lock this door, and the other person on the other side, if they want to, can open the door, and you have now a viewing window between the two.
There's a little voyeurism, a little voyeur going on there, where you can see your partner having a bath in there. But obviously, if they're going to be using the loo, they can close it and be, and have their privacy. But I love this window, and I very quickly I knew exactly the mirror I wanted, and I knew exactly what I wanted to look like. And I mean, it took a bit of work to achieve it, but we have successfully done it, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning, and as garish as it all may look with the gold and all that, it works. This design just needed a complete kind of like go for it kind of mentality.
I think what we touched on the last podcast was about uniqueness and focusing on excellence.
Yeah.
For customers who are less price sensitive and willing to pay more.
Yeah.
And I think if you can be a little bit more creative about the implementation of your ideas and how you finish the interiors, you can make a place that's so unique that nobody else can copy. I mean, you can look at the photos and directly copy if you want to.
Yeah.
But it will take so long.
Yeah, of course.
Unless you implement it. Unless you implement it properly, it's not gonna come off in the right way.
No.
So one of the things that we wanted to focus on is creating a gem, but basically creating something so unique that you can only get it from us.
That's correct.
And we've been talking a lot about Little Bamboo Bali, which is the one we're working on now, and I wanted to go on to that subject because I think we have some quite funny stories about when we were on our buying trip to Bali.
Yeah.
And you'll see some photos in future episodes of the building.
So touching on that, which is really good fun. One of the things that I've been fortunate enough to do is I get paid to go around the world and do certain projects, and not all of them are building projects. Some of them I've been doing some consultancy work where I've travelled to Asia and all over the world really, and it opened up my mind where I was like, traveling with a purpose. I was, my family are Spanish, and I've grown up traveling abroad every year of my life, more or less. And
I mean, it's the dream to go on holiday and pay for it with the work balance.
That is the ultimate. That is the ultimate goal. And I, on my travels working, I realised that, oh my God, you know what? I don't think I want to be on the beach. I quite enjoy traveling and looking at things and picking things up and buying things and getting things made. So the same way Matt and I realised we wanted to theme each one of these, which was really good. That's what makes us, we stand out because of that. At the same time, Matt and I, we decided, you know what? Let's do what you do with your bespoke furniture farm. Let's make the next one. Matthew said this. Yeah, let's make the next one a Bali one, and let's go to Bali and buy all the materials we need from there. I mean, that all sounds really easy. I'd never been to Bali in the past.
But it was a fun experience.
It's a fun experience. Logistically, if you've never done it before, especially if you've got no contacts in Bali or wherever you're going, actually, you could be India or wherever. It's interesting. It's a learning process. You only have to learn it once, and then you pretty much fine tune it to making it practical. But it was a wonderful experience. We had a hell of a lot of fun in Bali. Matthew brought his beautiful wife Zuma with her.
Who was pregnant at the time.
Was pregnant, probably 6 months pregnant at the time, or something like that. So just to to make things a little bit more interesting traveling. But it was really, really, really good fun. And
Francis at one point had the responsibility of driving Zuma, my wife, on the back of a moped.
Which I was not happy, to
come and meet me somewhere else on the island.
Yeah, I do remember. I didn't mind. It was lovely Zuma being there. The three of us being there was fantastic. I met up with Matthew and Zuma in Bali. They had gone to the Maldives for a couple of weeks beforehand, and I said I'll fly out there and I'll meet you in Bali, and we literally landed at the same time in Bali, and but I remember thinking, oh God, I don't want the responsibility of Zuma, a pregnant woman, and Matthew on one of his buying trips. I wasn't feeling great the day before. He said, why don't you stay with Zuma? And then Matthew got carried away and didn't come home till like 7 in the evening or 8 in the evening. And he said, look, can you bring Zuma to wherever I am? And there I was with this heavily pregnant woman on the back of my moped in Bali. And I'm a responsible guy. I've got 2 children of my own. But I do remember thinking, if that was me and that was my wife, I'd be pissed off. But anyway, I did it. And I just kept on saying to Zuma, stay still, Zuma. Stay still. You don't realise the responsibility that I've got here. Well, she's kicking her legs around trying to get comfortable on the seat. But
it's quite an experience when you've got someone on the back, they need to kind of stay still so that you can control the bike. But if they start leaning and like taking videos.
Yeah, that's right. But it was a great experience. And the 3 of us had a wonderful time. It was 4 of us, really, because Matthew's little daughter was in her tummy. But we had a really, really good time. And I think I fell in love with Bali a little bit there. And I think we will, if it isn't to purchase more stuff for another hut, we are definitely going to be purchasing some of our products from there, because we got our juices flowing when we were there, and we found some great creators, some great
custom furniture makers,
some great custom furniture makers and
material providers,
and they totally understood what I wanted and what Matthew what we were thinking. And they've made the stuff, and some of the stuff will be on our website as on our product pages once we launch it. And
one of them was great. We walked around this place that did fossilized wood tables. Petrified wood, which is effectively like a wood that has been buried underground for
millions of years.
They estimated in their shop, they said that these pieces have been underground for 500,000 to 1.5 million years.
Even longer. The petrified wood can be up to 20 million years old.
Yeah, and some of the tree stumps were literally the height of Francis standing up. Some of them are like 6 foot. And so we bought some stools that we
became obsessed with those. One of my funny obsessions are fossils. Anyway, I don't know why. I'm obsessed with wood and I'm obsessed with fossils, and then all of a sudden I got petrified wood, which is fossilized wood, and I was like, oh shit, we need to incorporate it. We need to bring some of this stuff back. It's so beautiful, and we did. We went a bit bonkers with that stuff. But funny enough. Matt, one of the things Matt was saying to me, do you think we'll be able to sell these? And instantly I had a client with my bespoke furniture business that I thought, I'm going to prove this straight away. And I called one of my clients up who I was working with on a project, and I said, I've got these here, they're beautiful. She took my word for it because she knows me very, very well. And she went, get it. And I just literally walked back to Matthew, and within 5 minutes of him saying, should we get them? I said, sold one already. And he was like, okay, let's go. And we just started tagging these stools, and we just went ballistic, and we just let our creative juices flow.
That one was quite funny though, because you already knew that she wanted a stool.
She wanted a pink stool made of stone. That was my brief when before I'd gone to Bali. I'd had a brief from one of my clients and said, Francis, look, if you can help me, I'm trying to find a stool, a bedside table, and I just want kind of like dusky pink marble table. I don't mind if it's sculpted in some sort of way. Anyway, I put it to the back of my mind, and lo and behold, because my mind blows in my mind, I've got explosions going on in my mind. When I got there, I saw this dusky pink thing, and I was like, and I kind of said to Matt, I'm going to sell one right now. And he was like, really? I went, I'm going to sell it right now. And I did. I sold it, and my client absolutely loves it. And it did. It gave us the confidence to go, But that all comes with experience, being able to do that, But yeah, so the Bali trip was absolutely amazing. I totally recommend anybody goes to Bali, and if you can go there buying, even better. Just there are logistical hurdles that you got to cross, and Matt will tell you about some of those, because Matt is, like I told you, he's a numbers guy in this outfit, and he had to deal with it, and that was like a Tetris exercise to try and get the stuff over here at cost. At cost, and
I think the trip overall was basically, we wanted to, with this business, we wanted to make lots of different romantic locations and spaces for
and
couples,
experiences,
targeting couples.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons for choosing Bali as an inspiration and place to buy materials from was because it is one of those places that you go and have your when in your youth you would go there and then do your gap year backpacking, and then you get a little bit older. You then maybe you do your backpacking the first time you go. The second time you go, you do a bit more of a hotel, a bit more high spend. Then next time you go, you stay in Ubud in the Four Seasons.
That's right.
And then you're spending it. You go into the same place like the paradise, but you're experiencing it in different ways.
Yeah, that's right.
And we wanted to bring some of that paradise to the UK.
Yeah, I love that. When you said that to me, because Matt suggested, look, I want to just bring a little bit of Bali here, and I thought that's a cracking idea. And lo and behold, it doesn't matter what the weather is. It doesn't really matter. If you get your interiors right, and you get the exteriors right, and you get the atmosphere, and you get the mood going in the place. Once you close the door, you can be anywhere in the world, and that's so that was one of the things that inspired us for that. That was a great experience.
So I was just thinking, starting with for me, when I'm walking around in a new place, I'm looking at what things are made from. Like I'm looking at the walls, looking at the floor, touching things, knocking things, and saying, okay, is that solid wood? Is that made from MDF? What's the surface finish here? Is that marble? Is it not? Is that going to be durable? Does it need to be sealed? Has this been lacquered with car lacquer? I'm thinking of things from a durability and technical point of view. I'm just wondering what your process is, because I want to just learn from this whole podcast experience as well. Like, so as we were driving around on mopeds, looking at different things, I would also been to Bali twice before. I was thinking, okay, well, I like the roof material. I like the roof tiles that they have. I think that is very specifically Balinese. Let's try and incorporate that. Maybe we can find that material somewhere. And then I will look at in the streets. There's bamboo growing in the streets, so I'll go, okay, well, bamboo is something I remember about Bali, so let's try and incorporate that somehow. And then I was in a swimming pool, and I go, okay, well, these tiles on the wall are slightly turquoise green. I've never seen that before. Maybe we can do that. And when I went with you, what I found is quite interesting is I was saying, let's do this, let's do that, let's buy this, let's buy that. And then when it came to, for example, the tiles in the swimming pool, you said, no, that just doesn't, that's not sophisticated enough. That's not going to match our style. How do you build the mood board in your head? Or how do you start building a mood board for
my vision? What I want to do? How do I do that? Gosh, that's a good question. So Matt and I, we kind of like discussed in our first podcast about functionality, about execution, about we emphasized we really pushed across that we wanted things to be built with a English kind of standard of craftsmanship. So one of the things that it's like a rod that goes through me. It's like my northern, it's like my North Star that I have in me is when I do a project and I know that I don't just want to copy. I just don't want to copy a Bali hut and bring it here. It's not going to work. A Bali hut is completely made of all bamboo and a traditional one, and it's not going to work. So we're going to have to incorporate it with functionality to work in our climate here. So already that design's compromised. So if a design's compromised, what you do is you don't fight it. You engage, you embrace it, and then you kind of like say, okay, well, look, we are going to take elements of Bali, which is what you just discussed now. Why I was so sure about those things, and you're saying you was interested, it was because I knew what we was going to do then was we was going to get signature pieces from Bali, but we weren't going to make the whole thing completely like a Bali hut.
Okay. So kind of like statement furniture.
So
and then basically building the art space around it.
That's
right.
Like
when you go to an art gallery, you've got the white walls, not necessarily white walls, obviously, but you've got the clean finish around, and then you have the pieces that you're looking at.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've got the thing that is native.
Exactly that. So we became a little bit obsessed with the shingle tiling for our roof, which is, I can't remember what it was. It's what do they call it there? Not brown wood. What do they call it?
It's called ironwood.
Ironwood,
Yeah.
the ironwood, solid hard ironwood. And Matt was like, I want these, and I was like, yeah, totally, because it does work. One, it's highly durable. It's one of the most durable roof tiles you can use, natural woods. And so we got masses of those pallets sent over, and then we also, when we thought about this one, we was going to clad it, and we've done bamboo cladding for this one. That for me was enough. That's enough Bali for me. And then obviously we designed this very ornate roof, which has got the curled up ends and all that kind of stuff. That's enough for me. That we don't have to put bamboo inside the hut anymore. Now we can just do some clean lights, use some very nice materials inside of it, and it's functional. And especially by buying bits of crafts, arts and craft from there, you can make the interior feel like Bali. The beautiful thing about the Bali inspiration is it's very simplistic. It's very minimalist. Apart from the materials are very interesting because they're natural. They've got natural detail to them. Each bandu shoot has a knuckle. So imagine you clad something. Well, all those knuckles make that look more than just cladding. When you go inside and you've got maybe a nice clean wall. Okay, well, we've got some columns. Let's put some beautifully handcrafted plaques. How would you call those? What we
I think they're called
hand carving.
Hand-carved fascia boards.
Hand-carved fascia boards. So we've got some hand-carved stuff, and you can put little elements of it in. And but for me, it's always really important that having underfloor heating, having sufficient heating for the winter here in London, having sufficient lighting. One of the things we've done with the Bali hut is we have the only external windows we have are 2 skylights in our ceilings, and one massive. Basically, the front of our hut, the whole thing from end to end is a window. We didn't want any more windows in it. It would be too cold or it would get too hot. So we've come up with some really good solutions to make it feel really airy. And in the summer, I imagine all the glass being exposed, but in the winter, once all the shutters down, being closed in by the 3 solid walls around you, you can also feel very cozy. So look, these are all little tricks that you learn as you design and make things. You learn these things.
You touched on 2 points there that I think was interesting. You said that we were going to use British craftsmanship.
Yeah.
And then materials and statement pieces
from signature
Bali.
Pieces from Bali.
And also, at some point, that it's enough. What is? How do you know when a piece of art is enough? Like, how do you know when to stop doing the doodle and drawing? Okay.
Well, it's not about doodling. How do I know when to? How do I know when to stop? When the creative juices are overflowing, when to stop. Okay, so the remit with this one here, it was explode. We want a sensory overload in this place. So I only stopped when I thought, okay, I've run out of space. That's when I stopped with this one. Okay. It works. But the minute I knew that our next concept was Bali, I've travelled to Asia quite a few times. I know it's minimalist. I know it's functional, it's basic, but it's beautiful. And
it's a lot of handcrafted stuff.
Lots of handcrafted stuff, but
the only bad thing about that, sorry to interrupt.
That's all right.
Is that the quality standards of some material suppliers are not to the standard that you might have in the UK. So, for example, with the roof tiles that we ordered, every batch was very slightly different, which meant that when we were putting the roof tiles up, every line, if we wanted the next line to line up, you had to find the same batch of tiles from the same supplier within the whole shipment to make sure that it, according to our standard, it all lined up the Little Lux London way.
That's why I love Matthew, because he really is like, he's going to really police that line and make sure it is like that.
But with that said, if it's not handcraft, if you don't see the
That's
handcraftedness,
right.
then it's not. It doesn't
It
feel Bali.
That's right. But there you go. What we're talking about here now is that fine line between. But
that's what. Yeah.
That's
so
great.
When is enough?
Well, the Bali one's easy. The Bali one really, really is easy. When you walk in there has to be enough art, art pieces of art, enough. It has to have a high ceiling because our Bali hut's even higher ceiling than this. It's probably about 13 foot. Our Bali hut, and it's about Bali's all about space, and Bali's all about external coming into external coming in. So if you overcrowd a Balinesian house, it's just not Bali. It just isn't. It just isn't that. So for me, going out there with a brief, we want to bring stuff that looks like Bali. I wanted the emphasis to be on the cladding, on the external cladding. I knew it was going to have big windows, massive windows, and the roof. The external roof had to be correct. Internally, I knew we want really high ceilings, and we want to show some beams. In Bali, it's very common to see beams, just to see exposed beams
and pillars,
and
no walls.
That's it. How basic. Well, I mean, we've got one in the Bali hut. We've got one wall,
which is all windows.
We've got one wall. It's all going to be glass anyway, because that's the whole point of Bali. It's just space. So when a theme is about space, you just have to, wherever it's appropriate, fill it with beautiful things that are from Bali. The rest you don't have to worry. Let the space do the work. So actually, your floor tiles are really important. Your color palette's really important that you put on the walls. The timber framing on our windows is important because it has to look like it has to have that honey sapele kind of dark, golden syrupy kind of look, which is very much a Balinesian look. And so I'm not going to. It's actually quite an easy design. That's quite an easy design. You obviously put a feature. It's always nice to have a feature wall within any kind of build that you do. It's always nice to have a feature room. And if you look at Bali, they're all slightly odd shaped. And when you have the cubby holes, circles, half circles, moons, and all that kind of stuff. So you put one of those in there, and you can have a bit of fun with it. But it's not a hard build, to the point that even Matt and I are even thinking about productizing the Bali one, because it's such an effective build, not that complicated. Matt literally writes everything down on our CAD, so we can remodel it. So look out for that, because we may be selling those in the future as well. With we're flirting with the idea of building our own team who will actually come install it as well. So once we've worked out cost and all that kind of stuff, and our technical drawings, we will put it on our website as well, so you can have a look at it.
I think one of the good examples of taking inspiration from other cultures and then bringing it to the UK and using British craftsmanship is instead of in Bali they use concrete everywhere because it's easy to mix. They don't usually use mixing machines. They just literally mix the concrete in the street.
That's right.
With a spade, they just pour all the concrete and dust onto the ground, mix it, and then put it into a barrel, and then walk inside and then pour it where it needs to be poured. And unfortunately, that's not very technically sound way of doing concrete. And also a lot of the floors and bathrooms have cracks in them because they don't use an acrylic bonding agent and glass fiber, which you'd normally use in a concrete floor or bathroom design, so that the cracks don't propagate. So what we did, instead of using concrete on our floors, because the frames that these are on are metal and there's a wooden floor and it's slightly flexible, even though we've done as much as we can to stiffen it, is that we decided to use porcelain tiles.
Beautiful porcelain tiles.
The extra large porcelain tiles, so that there's the fewest possible joints to make the floor look seamless. And I think that looks way more sophisticated than having and also durable for especially for a rental property, than having a floor that has a crack line running all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
After it's slightly
yeah,
bent and jolted in one way, and I think that is one of the elements and part of our brand is taking the aesthetics and making it work in a more sophisticated and durable way.
Call it like the Western flex. Like the Western flex. Absolutely. We're copying, we're imitating what we see out there, but we're actually doing it even slightly better. One, because we have access to better materials than they do out there. We're obviously, economically, we are slightly better off than they are there. So we can. So it'd be stupid to build a floor and pour concrete and have cracks in it, even though it looked very authentic. For me, it's a little bit too authentic. I couldn't possibly be, I couldn't do it. I couldn't look at that. But so but we got the general gist, which was we want the floor to look like a polished concrete. So we've achieved that using porcelain, and obviously we've grouted it to match it as best as we possibly can. That's come out really, really nice, and that was a really easy solution. I don't know the size of that. It's like 1.2 by 1.2, were they? Also 110 by 110.
Yeah, it's around 1 meter by 1 meter tiles.
Yeah, they're massive, but that worked out. That worked out really, really well. I mean, we covered that floor quite quickly. Apart from the shower tray, which took a little bit more time, we covered that floor really, really quickly. And now we're just doing some one stud wall that we've got to put up now, and that's pretty much good to go. Really, we can start decorating once that stud wall's up.
With that said, maybe the next episode that we do, we could actually do a walkthrough of the other one when the exterior is finished.
I think we should do it because it'll be rather than just talking about it and then seeing the finished thing. While it's at the stage that it's at now, it'd be interesting for them we can show them detail. We can show you guys all the details on, so you get an idea.
So with that said, if you want to see the Balinese property that we've been talking about, please do subscribe and you'll get a notification next time the video's up. So we can actually show you what we've been talking about.
Yeah, we show you some images, absolutely. Yeah, we'll link you to that. What else did we want to talk about today, really, Matthew?
What was your most memorable, off topic from design? What was your most memorable moment from our trip?
It wasn't a good one. No, I'm not even going to go with that one.
Go on. It was a funny one.
Oh my god! Matthew's wife Zuma decided to buy a durian fruit, and she never told me that she bought it, but she basically put a durian fruit, traditional Southeast Asian fruit, and she put it in the back of the moped where the helmet is for a couple of days, and I kept on smelling this horrible bloody smell all over the place. And then one night, Matt Zuma and myself, we went out for dinner, and we got a little bit pissed actually that night. We got a little bit drunk, and we came back, and Zuma said, "Oh, I got my durian fruit," and I was actually really pissed, and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna have some. I'm just gonna open it." I didn't realise it had split already, and apparently you're not supposed to. I've been told you're not supposed, once it ripens like that and opens, you're not supposed to eat it because fruit flies go inside it. There were maggots in there. Anyway, I was so drunk, and I said, I'm going to try it. And I thought I'd cut off a nice little piece that hadn't been spoiled. And oh my God, it's most disgusting. It was just so weird. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever eaten in my life. Matt had a little go, like dabbed his little tongue on it. I was like, oh, I'm not eating that. Anyway, we threw it away. And lo and behold, 2:00 in the morning, my stomach just started growling, and I started shivering and sweating. And that wrecked me for 2 days. So if you do go to Bali or anywhere like that, or Thailand, don't even think about it. Don't let anyone convince you that it's a good idea to try the fruit. It is disgusting, and our stomachs here in the West are not made for it. Do not touch it. Anyway, I'm not going to lie, that was one of the memories I take away from there. But my most fun memory, one of my most enjoyable things we did was the next day after I fell ill. We was traveling by taxi, and Matt had a few appointments I was supposed to be going with, and I wasn't up to it at all. So I said, look, I'm not going to come. I'm just going to need a 24 hours to recover from this bug. So So I went with Zuma to a nice little chill out kind of exclusive retreat. This is in
Uluwatu, yeah.
Uluwatu, on the cliffside. It was beautiful. You can imagine everyone there doing their yoga and all that kind of stuff, and low tables and beautiful food and all that. It was wonderful. And even though I was ill, they had these wonderful little, very low chairs there. And goes to show you, this is where Matt and I are very, very similar. I just sat in this thing, and obviously I'm a furniture designer and I make bespoke furniture. And I thought, this is cool. And then I was sat in there and I thought, it's just a little bit annoying. It doesn't move. You know, it's so low, you can't move it. And then my head just started going, and I thought, I'm going to design one in my head. And once I designed in my head, I literally designed in my head, and I did it, and I started going through the process. I wanted to. This is a little bit bigger, then I can put cushions inside it. And I can do this, and actually, if I make this rocking, if I use this engineering technique to make this a rocking chair, I can make it so it has a pivotal point. Then you can maneuver this thing by still being sat in it. Anyway, lo and behold, that's it. I did that process, and one of the best things we did when we were there was the next day I felt better. Matt and I went to a restaurant for lunch.
Remember where it was so that people can actually visit it. What was the name? I think it was called Hours Home, or it was called
Home Cafe. It was a cafe. It was wonderful. I think it was called Home Cafe, but we've got to find out.
It was in Uluwatu, near to. It was in Padang. I think it was called Hours Home, and it was a Steak Tuesday.
It was fantastic.
We had some delicious steaks.
We had some great food there, and we were just sat there, and we had decided by this point of the trip we were going to take a couple of days off. Matt realised I'd been very, very, very ill as well. The previous 48 hours before, so it was just going to take it easy. Anyway, we just sat there, and I remember that point. I said, "Oh, Matt, by the way, I came up with a design." So as best ideas come out, I pulled the napkin out, got a pen, and I drew this thing, and before you knew it, we're measuring and we drew it out. And the very next day we went, found the carpenter, and we created it. We've actually made this thing. And like I always say, like from concept to drawing to reality, I love that process. And that was a product that we created there. And you will see this product. It's a beautiful I would call it like a little lover's rocking chair, low ride rocking chair, and it's absolutely stunning, completely Balinesian, with certain details that you can tell they wouldn't bother doing it out there, but I insisted they did, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunningly oversized little chair, and those kind of moments are when I said to you before, and when I said to these guys out there before, if you can travel and work, you've made it. You've absolutely made it. As in, like, instead of working,
you're making it part of your life.
You're making it part of your life, and we live in a world now, and everything's moving. Everything is accessible. For the young generation, why would you possibly just work a 9-to-5 job and just travel 2 weeks of every year? Think out of the box. Make your money. Think out of the box. Become an entrepreneur if you can do it. Have fun. Focus on what you're good at, and make traveling part of what you do. I think if everyone in the West could do that, and everyone in the world, if we could all do that, we'll make the whole world a little bit smaller and a little bit more tolerant of each other, and actually share the love and share the wealth. I think it's great. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
And I think that those unique experiences, like we said before in the previous episode, is escaping competition through authenticity, making your life, putting that into the product. And then making it so unique that it's not copyable. It's basically, we're in the hospitality industry.
Yeah, that's right.
And we're charging more than most hotels per night.
That's right.
And the reason we're doing that is because we've made something so unique that you can't find an alternative in a hotel. A hotel will have many, many different rooms. Probably a quarter of them will be suites, a quarter of them will be double rooms, a quarter of them will be the two singles, and they'll all be the same style.
That's right.
And what we're doing is we're making completely unique, different pods that are boutique hotel rooms.
Yeah.
And if you want to stay at one, you get interested by the other one.
Yeah.
You might as well stay at the other one.
Yeah.
You can stay at the next one. And if you like that one more, you can go back again. You can stay at that one.
Yeah, I think it's really important. That just touched on there the authenticity of each room and why people come back to our huts and experience. I'm not too sure if you can get away with just by magazine. You may be able to. If you're very very talented, be able to almost sell the lifestyle that you're trying to create. I think it's really important that you do travel and experience it, because I think that's what makes it authentic. I think people will come in these and they will feel like this does feel like a countryside house. Oh, this does feel like a townhouse, or this does feel like Bali. And I think we bring that along with us because we've actually done it and we actually do experience it. So I think if you are going to be really adventurous, if you are going to be adventurous with your designs, you need to be adventurous with your life too, because the authenticity only comes across if it's authentic. It's as simple as that. And so exactly. Well, that's what I can say.
There was one thing that I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you before I forgot.
Yeah.
Before the end of this podcast, because I might not bring it up in the next one.
Yeah.
And it is, once you get to this stage in our careers, where we can decide what we want to make.
Yeah.
And you're still doing client service work.
Yeah.
How is it that you convince an artist or someone who has this autonomy to actually create something for you that they care about? Because when you get to this stage, we obviously want to get paid.
Yeah.
But when someone pays you and they want you to do something mindlessly, it doesn't motivate you to want to do it, and you don't put the passion.
That does come of age, but you also have to be very very disciplined in your life and understand that if you're providing a service, no matter what the service is, you have to be disciplined. And the minute you shake somebody's hand or you say you're going to do something for them, you see it through. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Of course, if the job doesn't come out right, or if you're not inspired by it, just be inspired by your own discipline and be proud of yourself that you're actually, you know what, I can bite my tongue here, or I can not enjoy this, but I'm still going to produce a high level of service. And
I suppose what I mean is to reframe the question.
Yeah, reframe it. I don't understand it properly.
What I mean is when a customer comes to you and they tell you what they want.
Yeah.
And you don't agree necessarily.
So we touched on this in the first podcast
with what they want.
Yeah.
And you feel like you don't have any creative input into the process.
Yeah.
How do you motivate yourself to work versus one where you're allowed some sort of creative?
Okay, so when you're younger, and you should be motivated by this when you're younger, because you're trying to buy some kind of autonomy. The very word trying to buy means it's financial. You need to produce some finances. You need to make sure you've got some finances behind you. So when you leave uni or college, or whenever you leave, whatever, the army or whatever you leave, whatever you're doing, you need to kind of like focus on your finances. So when you're in your 20s, you're learning an apprenticeship, you're learning a skill set, and pretty much your focus should be on finding a career path that you actually enjoy doing. You may not be getting rewarded for it because you haven't got the experience. So you need to focus on that. So during that stage of your life, you're very concerned about money and about making money. So for maybe a decade, you're highly tuned to me. The ambition is, I need to make money. So you don't just switch that off when you get to an age where you can flex and you can be creative. That's always inside you. That I need to make money has to be. You need to keep that forever. Okay, you might be in a really luxurious position where you can turn things down because you've got an overflow of work or clients. But if you ever do come across a difficult job that is all about finances, it takes only a switch to switch it back on, because you've been doing it doing it throughout your 20s and early 30s. You switch that back on and go, okay, well, I'm motivated by the payment, and it's just going to be a practical job, and I've got to do what I've got to do. Of course, as you mature, you can influence your clients, but if you can't, don't be a pickhead about it and try to make somebody do something that you want. I mean, that's a bit of that's that ego thing going
Mm.
again. You really think somebody actually wants you to do something the way they want to do it, you can give them a suggestion. If they don't want it, and you could tell that you're just going to upset them or dent their ego. Don't just look at it as a job. It's just finance.
I suppose what I'm trying to get at is, as a customer coming to
Look, give me an example. You do it to me now. Just pretend you're a customer.
As a customer coming to you.
Yeah.
If I say I want you to do this sofa and I want it fluted back.
Yeah.
And I want there to be pins on.
Yeah.
All the way around and down the sides.
Yeah.
And you don't think that it's going to look good.
Yeah.
Because it's conflicting in terms of the way that it's finished. The two finishes are.
It's compromising the finish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you approach suggest, because you said to me before that you're very good at providing the customer with feedback and then improving the design overall, especially because you've walked to their property and you've seen what their property looks like.
Yeah.
And you make suggestions and make the design better in
That's
front of them, and then they go, "Oh, actually, I didn't know that."
Yeah.
Well, let's go with your idea.
Yeah. I think
versus just saying yes, and then you're looking at it at the end of it, and you're like, "Oh, I know they're not going to like this."
That's sad. So, I think I still work with people now who have their own companies in furniture making, and I see that they do jobs. And they don't put any input, and actually they're quite successful companies as well, and they just produce, but they have no artistic influence over the thing. And you know what, it works for them, and sometimes I look back and I think, maybe I shouldn't get so involved. It's just like the simplicity of it, but it does kill me when I see something and I think, oh my god, have you just done that? So but the way I tend to do it is I kind of gauge people, and if I feel they're a little bit lost, I'll give them some knowledge. And sometimes on the job they may say they want some nailing, studding on finish on something, and once I start creating it, I haven't studied it yet. If I think it looks great without it, I'll just literally phone them up. I think I think communication's key. I'll give them a call. I'll tell them to come over to my workshop. I'll send them a photo and I'll say, look, it actually looks really nice without it. Do you want to use piping to finish it, or do you still want to go ahead with a stud in it? And 9 out of 10 times I say, what do you think looks best? And I say, look, it looks fine without any of it. And that kind of like gives them the confidence anyway. One, that I've spoken to them, once I've included them. Inclusion is really important whenever you deal with clients. You can't literally just create whatever you want to create. You're working for somebody, and you need to be able to create something that they at the end of the day they love it and they want, so yeah. For me, it comes really natural. It really, really comes naturally. My personality suits the way I sell. All of that is it's a lot easier for me than it is for other people. But that's what makes us different, Matthew. That's why you and I are doing what we're doing, because we're not. Our clients are now. We are creating a product, and people are purchasing our creation. We're not we haven't got clients per se, as in we're not being given orders to create something. We're creating a one-offs, and our clients are people who have already looked at us online, love what we've done, and I think that's the ultimate goal. I think when you're talking about stages of people in their careers, when you're younger, your ambition. You've got to find something you're passionate about, then you've got to make the money, and then you can all of a sudden you get good at what you do. Now you can make choices within that role. Then you might decide, I want to branch off and do it for myself. I'm at a stage now, and I think we're both doing it together. We're now at a stage where we can say, you know what, we've got enough knowledge between us. Let's create something and just let that make us the revenue that we want to make. And for me, that's the ultimate flex. I think that's lovely. I think that's great. I think that's
it's creating demand from scratch, basically.
It's creating from scratch, and you don't have to keep repeating it. You can once you've done one hut, okay, winning formula. You know what? Create another one completely different. What a great way to live every day of your life, or every year of the decade, creating something different all the time. And with every creation you're making, you're leaving like a wake of financial income. And with a bit of maintenance, what a great way to collect a portfolio and it all to be interesting. What a great way to collect knowledge of how to make things. What a great way to travel the world. So I think it's all in all, it's just a really good. This is a really good platform for us, for you and I, and anyone out there who's thinking about doing it. I hope we kind of like inspire you a little bit, and give you a little, a bit of know-how and the satisfaction it gives you. It's worth it. It really, really is worth it. So head down.
So do you think that the best way to get the best out of an artist, someone who's the creator, is to allow to show them that you're open to suggestion as well?
Well, you're saying,
because you said that you read your customers and see how confident they are about what they're.
There's one simple word there to describe what you just said in a sentence. It's trust. To get the best out of an artist, trust them. But the reason you like that artist is because you like the artist. So you now need to trust them. You can't get an artist to do work for you and then say, but I don't want you to do this, and I don't want you to do that, and I don't want you to do. It's like saying trying to commission Banksy to do a piece of art, and then saying, I want it to be like Cubism, or can you make it like a Monet? Like, what the hell? But I really like you, I really like you, Banksy, but you can't do it. So the way to do an artist is just trust them.
That's the same thing for suppliers as well, I think.
I think so, yeah.
So when you see their work and then you go, right, they're actually something I'm looking for. Yeah. And rather than dictating what they should do, you say, I know that you're good at this.
You go,
this is kind of what I want.
Yeah.
What do you think? And then they give you some ideas and you go, yeah, do that. That's good.
Do you know what, Matt? We had a funny experience in Bali. One of the experiences, again, that was really a cool one. We was in Ubud. It was in Ubud, and we went off to see a factory, a wood supplier.
A sculpture place?
No, it wasn't a sculpture place. It was a supplier of wood. And we were considering getting all our windows made out there. And Matt and I spent 5 hours drawing, technical drawings, and talking to these guys. And they weren't flexible at all. They weren't flexible with the prices. They weren't flexible with the range of materials. They were complicating. They were complicating our designs for us, and we put loads of hours into that, and we basically walked away not really that happy, and we weren't even satisfied we was going to get what we was going to get. That's not how to do it. That's not how an artist does it. They are the artisans. So there is a fine balance between listening to. You need to assume that everyone's a bit of an artist. Even the person that commissions an artist, they clearly like art. So there must be an artistic flow in them. You have to respect that, and you have to work with them. Anyway, we walked away from that experience, and we lost a day. We completely lost a day, and
that was a good directional correction, though.
100%.
After that, we realised that we couldn't invest so much time into one supplier.
Yeah.
And we needed to go around after looking through the streets and different suppliers. We needed to come up with a list of things that we wanted to go out looking for, rather than going there and saying, "Oh, can you do this for us? Can you do that for us?"
One thing I know is, look, whenever I work with anybody, is if somebody exhausts me, I'm not going to buy. I'm not going. If I'm exhausted by the end of the transaction or by the end of the concept, I ain't going to buy. That's hard. That's really, really hard work. One of the, Matt and I are suppliers. We produce things, so we know where he's coming from. And this guy we weren't part of the whole process. He just wanted.
It wasn't solution based.
It wasn't solution based. It was like, basically we want to offload, and ultimately, we looked at each other like, let's just get out of it. I mean, it felt terrible because we'd taken up 5 hours of these people's day, but it was a hard no for me. It was a hard no. It's a hard no for Matthew.
And in contrast to that, when we went to see Eddie.
Oh my God! Yeah. What a lovely guy.
Complete opposite.
He's an artist.
Yeah.
He's actually an artist.
You could tell that he knew
that we knew, and he knew that we knew,
and we knew that we knew,
and he knew that we knew.
And then when we were walking around, we said, "Oh, could you just slice that, and then we can do this."
So Matthew,
we got pen and paper out. And we're like, "Okay, let's turn that into a vanity unit."
Love that. The artistic juice is just blowing. How much money? The majority of our budget went with Eddie. So that goes to show you. I mean, so going back to the first guy. Not that I always want to go back to negative, but we have to talk about it because it's important as well to know it ain't always good. I was frustrated with that guy because I just thought to myself, "Oh my god! By now I would have sold you my whole yard. If I would have sold it to you. We were there to buy. We don't hang around for 5 hours, and it's just like shoddy. It's just shoddy charisma, really, and it's So
I think that's actually one of the things that is a good. What's the opposite of a red flag?
Green flag.
Okay, now there's a good green flag for when you're looking for suppliers, especially abroad. Is who's looking for solutions versus who's trying to sell you what they've already got.
Good subject. Good one. Yeah.
Because when we were with Eddie and our electrician, for example, we tell them what we want, and then they go, "I can do that."
Yeah.
And they figure out a way.
Yeah.
And if they can't figure out a way, they say, "Can we do it this way?"
Yeah.
And then we go, "Well, we can do it that way, but can you do this?"
Yeah, that's right.
And then there's a solution.
Yeah.
Versus someone who's got a stock list and they're trying to sell you what they've already got. And that is something that is just repulsive as someone looking to buy and also supplying.
Yeah.
So I think number one thing is to look for people who want to provide solutions. Whatever it is an idea that you come to them with, is for you to go, that might not be possible, but we can do it this way.
Yeah.
How about that? And then they go, maybe. What about this? What about that? And then eventually you come up with a solution where you've come up. The requirement is not necessarily exactly what you wanted.
Yeah.
But you've got something maybe even better.
Yeah.
And you weave the way into.
Yeah, I do love that whole experience when it works like that, when it's symbiotic and it kind of like twos and fro's, and actually. I do like that experience, especially sometimes. So on my travels to India, when I've worked with people. So believe it or not, I'm a bit of a legend with a sewing machine, industrial sewing machine. And one of the reasons why I'd get flown out there was because some of our suppliers were saying they couldn't get a certain detail in some of the stuff that my client at the time, a good friend of mine actually, now. She said they're struggling with this detail. So I said, okay, well, let me just go out there and I'll go on the sewing machine. And you can only imagine in the middle of Rajasthan, in Jaipur, when I get there to meet these guys, quality control, and they show me this thing. I can see it's substandard, and he's saying that's the best they can do. And then I said, just take me to the factory. He takes me to the factory, and I just kind of like ask, beautiful women. Then I say, do you mind budging over and giving me a piping foot? She says, yeah, and I just sew it for her. And then like all the women are looking, and I go, what the hell is this guy doing? And I do it, and then all of a sudden, but the guy wasn't solution based. But all of a sudden, they look at you in a slightly different way, and this is quite beneficial too. And they just realize you're not just a money guy. You're not there just to spend. You're actually a craftsman yourself. And I would always give them the caveat and say, look, I've just shown you a new thing, and if I have, fantastic. If it's not, it's not. But I'd like to share that, but by doing that and experiencing that, so yeah, you can think somebody's not trying to help you, but maybe they just don't know a technique. And if I could share that, and I do sometimes share that, I'll get off on that. I get off on that massive. I literally I walked out. It was in the basement. It was lit up. I had all skylights in there, but it was kind of underground, a huge factory. And when I finished it, I had probably about 20 girls around me looking at what I was doing. I was just doing some gathering on, instead of piping, some gathering on a gathering foot, and just showing them the technique to the way I do it. And they all looked at me after, and as I got out, they all started applauding me, and I was like, oh, this is bloody hilarious. and that was my day meeting over. I was finished. My car was outside. He took me back to the hotel, and I was like, how'd it go? I went, yeah, fantastic. And that was good fun. It was good fun. So yeah, buying is a great experience. Buying, selling, it should all be fun. It should all be fun. So I'm gonna say it again: if you can travel and make money at the same time, that's the best way to exist. I think. I totally think, and do it while you're either very, very young, or the minute your children are a little bit older, then do it then. Well, I suppose you could do it with children as well, but.
With that said, I think the next episode we're going to walk around the little bamboo Bali hut that we're currently building.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the features that we're developing in there, and some of the external materials, cladding that we've used, the shingles on the roof, and I think that would be an interesting follow-up episode to this one.
Yeah, well, obviously we'll decide what else we kind of like tangent on into, but absolutely, I think we just show that build, and maybe even show, if there's got enough time or the lighting's right, we can show them around all of the huts. Let's do kind of like a short little video, show them what these actual huts look like. So actually, it's on the website anyway, littleluxlondon.com. So have a look there. You can see anyway. You don't need a video, but we definitely will show a little video of how the next one's coming along, and you get an idea of like what we was talking about, how simple lines but with the right materials, how you can make things look beautiful and sophisticated and functional.
And as Francis said, littleluxlondon.com, if you want to come and stay at this property that we're sitting in now, and you want to see all the things that we spoke about in this video and in real life, as opposed to the ones that we've shown in photos during this podcast, then please do come and book.
Yep.
And maybe you can meet us in person. You can talk about some of your ideas. If there's anything that you want to see in the next podcast based on anything that we spoke about, or you want to ask any questions, then please do put them in the comments below. If you like the content, then please do subscribe, and you'll be notified when we next put the podcast up. At the moment, we're doing one every week.
Just to start off with.
But it may not be as consistent as that, but we're going to be doing it every time we think of something interesting to say. We don't want to just create a podcast with nothing interesting to say. Also, we're quite busy during the week, so we might be focusing on one project at a certain time. Just reach out if you've got any questions. Just reach out online, or just or like Matthew said, just leave a notification or whatever, and we'll get in touch with you. We can help you out. Feel free, do it. Go for it. But if you think this podcast is useful, then please do like and subscribe, because more people will see the video. You'll get ranked higher in the listings on YouTube. And we'll see you guys next time. Catch you later. Thanks. Bye.